did this thing backwards, but I'll give you a little bit of a view anyways. So, the Supreme Court of the United States of America wants to decide whether or not the police can kick down your door and take your guns without a warrant. What? Thought this was America. So, couple problems. One, you should not be taking people's guns. Two, you should not be kicking down their doors without a warrant. Three, that should be pretty fucking obvious, and anyone who thinks otherwise should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Here's a little brain teaser for you. So, I'm going to use the Mark Zuckerberg example, since a lot of people don't know this anyways. Mark Zuckerberg went to Hawaii and he bought a lot of land so that he could build his own private island within an island. And he, on this land, lived people who have been living there for generations. But he didn't care. He bought the land. I guess he bought it from the government. And he started building walls. And now he's removing people. Excuse me. Then, this is years old. This is an ancient story. Then he removed people from that land to put them on the other side of the wall that he built. He stole their land. He stole their homes. Now, he could go to the court of Hawaii and say, well, I bought this land legally from Hawaii, and the court of Hawaii would tell him, well, everything looks in order here. Yeah, these people were on your land. They were squatters. Those are the criminals. Get them out of here. And this is, the same story of the Native Americans and their land. But here's what's interesting. The only reason no criminal charges are pressed is because this is done in a court that is a party to the crime. So imagine this. Imagine if instead of this being a trial in the court of Hawaii, imagine if this was a trial in the court of the people who occupied that land before Zuckerberg came along. And of course, absent any law, because you don't really need laws to establish, this is common law, right? Property rights. What would happen? Zuckerberg, along with the government of Hawaii and whoever participated in this land grab, would be charged as criminals. And what would Zuckerberg's defense be? It would be, oh, well, I didn't know. They sold it to me. They sold it to me fair and square, and I thought that I now owned it and I had the legal right to remove these people. And the people of Hawaii would say, well, we had these laws, so according to us, it was all legitimate. I don't know what you're charging us with a crime for. But if you think about it, that makes about as much sense as bank robbers in their trial saying, well, we all got together, we all voted, we all passed laws, we all made rules about how we're going to organize seizing this property from this bank, and because we voted on it, it's legitimate law. And so, therefore, we're going to, we attempted to take this property, and you have no right to hold this trial here. Your court doesn't exist to us. You have no authority. You're a bunch of criminals. Kind of crazy, right? So, what am I trying to say here? Well, a lot of the laws that we assume to be legitimate laws that are there for our safety or to protect good moral behavior within society, they're really not there for that reason. Because if they were there for that reason, the government would not be a party to any of these transactions that seize people's property. They would not be able to initiate any lawsuit against anybody without a victim. And that victim could not claim special privilege of an acquisition of property because of special rules that were given to him by the government. Because as soon as you introduce any of those elements, what you essentially have is a government who's cooperating in criminal activity, and whatever side of the lawsuit happens to be on the side of government is going to get away with it. You can be a criminal as long as you're a criminal with the government, because the government owns the courts. So what can we possibly do about this? Well, I think that might have been the original design of separating three branches of government. So you'd have the lawmakers, the law executors, and the courts all separate, but that didn't work out too well, did it? Is it possible that part of the reason this still didn't work is because these three branches are still very much tied together, especially when it comes to the budget, especially when it comes to the organization, especially when it comes to their legitimacy? We treat them as one organization. You have to pay your taxes, and the taxes pay for all of it. All three branches. There's no competitive incentive. There's no incentive for them to do right, otherwise they might lose business. Which could be said about the government as a whole, but also about each of the three branches. I mean, think about it. We've got better choices and better cost in terms of entertainment because everything's separated and there's competition, right? And we can look at it, it used to be, you get your cable and there's only one cable provider. And then they could say, well, it's separate because you have a cable provider and then you have the cable channels. Separate. But it was still a monopoly because you only had one channel to choose from. You only had one cable provider to choose from. Until competition came along. Now there's multiple cables to choose from and the price fell. Now there's Netflix and all these streaming services. So not only was it separated into different branches, it was separated and competition was allowed. Separating into branches doesn't prevent a monopoly, it just separates responsibility within the monopoly. So even though you have three separate branches, and I believe the attempt might have been to prevent a monopoly of power, you still have a monopoly on each one of the responsibilities of those branches. So each branch then becomes a monopoly. And of course, monopolies like to work together. They legitimize each other. If you're not allowed to have a monopoly, why wouldn't I be able to have a monopoly? So I'm going to protect my monopoly by making sure you can have your monopoly. We'll protect each other. Food for thought. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. And then head over to nuggofknowledge.com and get some of their stuff. And put that in your pipe and smoke it. Catch you guys later. Taxation is theft.